Hey everybody, this is Brandon Ford and welcome to the Blind Rage Podcast. Tonight I am doing a commentary that is way overdue, and that is for the 1986 Tobe Hooper cult classic, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. And if you want to watch along, I'm sure you'll have no trouble finding the movie everywhere. My copy is an upload from the Blu-ray. It's like an hour, 40 minutes, 30 something seconds. And it does have the roaring MGM lion at the beginning, so just in case. I'm going to be starting it right before that, so make sure you have a black screen if you want to watch along. Before we get started, I need to get some plugs out of the way. Please don't forget to check out my books in paperback and Kindle on Amazon.com by typing in Brandon Ford. You'll find several of my titles, including my most recent thriller, as of the time of this recording anyway, titled He Wore a Leather Jacket. Hoping to get the audiobook up sometime soon. But I also have a number of titles available in addition to He Wore a Leather Jacket in paperback and Kindle, like Progressive Entrapment, Dreams of Sharp Teeth, Plaything, Coffee at Midnight, Open Wounds, and so on and so forth. So please check those out, and please check out my audiobooks by going to audible.com or the Audible app on your smartphone. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, if you don't already, you can find me at writer Brandon Ford. You can also find me on Twitter at Brandon Ford. Although I'm not very active on Twitter these days. I'm also on Letterboxd, leaving my little thoughts and reviews. You can follow me there at Brandon Ford. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, critiques, suggestions, opinions, criticisms, I beckon you to please email me directly at blindragepod81@gmail.com, because I have no fucking clue how to check my Instagram comments. I know in the past I've said to leave comments to specific posts if you have any ideas. Like, for example, if you have a Tales from the Crypt episode you'd like me to do, to leave a comment under a most recent Tales from the Crypt episode. But guess what? I have no idea how to read them, because according to the website I checked out, you have to go through 13, that's right, 13 steps, and that's a lot of shit you gotta do in order just to read comments. One would think you could just read comments underneath the post, like on Facebook, since Facebook is responsible for Instagram. But alas, no. You have to download this, you have to install that, you have to transfer this, you have to fucking lick some butthole, I don't know, but I can't do it. So it's too much. So yeah, just please email me. Yeah, and last but not least, please do not forget to rate, review, and subscribe. It only takes a second of your time to hit the drop down and select a star rating, even if it's not a 5-star rating, as long as you're honest. It helps with the algorithms, it gets the Blind Rage Podcast some exposure, and if you're feeling particularly nice and would like to leave me a little review, that would also be most appreciated. And now, without further ado, let's get into the movie. I'm going to begin with a 3 count. Something tells me I'm going to fuck this up, but let's pray. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1, play. Okay. All right, enough of that. There's the Canon logo. A lot of people associate a lot of the like Charles Bronson type movies and Terminator, a lot of like cheesy action movies with Cannon, Electra Breaking 2, hence the Electric Boogaloo Cannon documentary. But whenever I hear Cannon or Cannon films, or Total Recall, whenever I hear Cannon films, I always think of Chainsaw 2. Probably because that's really one of the only Cannon films I've seen. I really don't, I never really watched any of those kinds of movies. So we have this crawl here. It's kind of creepy when you really listen to it. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre has not stopped. It haunts Texas. It seems to have no end. So I want to talk about this. The typeface or the font that they use for the opening titles, which is something so stupid to stay focused on, but there's a point, and it's not a very good one, so stay with me. But I never had a computer growing up. I didn't get my first computer until I was just about to turn 19. So I would always play with the computers in school and in the computer lab, and in both middle school and high school, it was all Mac. There was no Windows. So I didn't even know that Windows existed. When I got my Windows computer, my Windows 98, my mind was fucking blown. Because I didn't know anything about computers. But anyway, in ClarisWorks, the Mac answer to Word, they had a font. They had this font that's in the opening titles. And this font is similar, but not the same, to the font that's used on the original VHS cover of Slumber Party Massacre 3. And unfortunately, that typeface was never used past the original VHS. For the DVD, they just reused partially the typeface for part 2, and they did so again with this Scream Factory double feature, except in addition to the shitty transfer of the uncut version, I hated the way the Roman numerals for both of them, but in particular part 3 look. It just looks so fucking shitty. And anyway, so yeah, like I said, the font was similar to the Slumber Party Massacre 3 typeface, and me being an obsessive fan of the movie and spending time, because I had no friends, on a computer making like little fucking mini posters or ads for certain movies that I liked. I tried in vain to recreate the Slumber Party Massacre 3 typeface, the original typeface, but you can't, because for the word massacre, it's all stretched out. So I don't know if it is the same font or if they manipulated it. I don't think it is the same font, because the 3 is vastly different. So, but funnily enough, the way the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 title card is seen in the opening of the movie is sort of kind of similar to the way that Slumber Party Massacre 3 is seen on the original VHS. But yeah, I think they used that font that was in ClarisWorks. But yeah, so what I would do, and it looks so shitty, was I basically printed out the title as almost exactly as it looks for the title card on Chainsaw 2. Only for for the 3, I used the 3 in the Chicago font. I know you guys remember Chicago, because the 3 is similar to the 3 on the VHS, but it's not the same. So yeah, I don't know. That was a totally pointless anecdote, but it was one that I always think of when I watch this movie. These fucking kids are menaces. And I was reading the Wikipedia page, and they're supposed to be high school seniors. I always thought they were college kids. I don't, or maybe they are. I don't know. This is the most frustrating thing to me about this movie. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who has asked this question many, many fucking times, because it is a huge plot hole. Why doesn't Stretch just hang up the phone? Can somebody please explain that to me? I know that radio DJs have the ability to cut you off, because I used to call the fucking local top 40 radio station a lot when I was growing up to make requests, and they could not fucking be bothered. I mean, you would say what you wanted to say, and it was got, and they would hang up. You would get about 3 seconds on the phone with them before they fucking banged on you. I do like this Oingo Boingo song. It's got a good beat, and it goes really well with the scene, although I have to say, I'm not really sure if what they're driving on is a bridge or what exactly that is. But if it is a bridge, it goes on fucking forever. And you just see that bridge in the background with Leatherface and Nubbins. Is that Nubbins? Or does Nubbins come in later? I think it's Nubbins. Yeah. Oh. Ooga. I think it's cute that they have that horn. Ooga. Back up, pig fucker. Oh, he's backing up. They gotta hang up. Why can't she hang up? And not only is she standing there holding the phone, yelling for them to hang up, LG, RIP, by the way, it was fucked when he died. LG is like doing all kinds of manipulation with the mechanics over there. He is plugging shit in. He is pulling wires out. He is doing everything in his power. He's fucking making a science experiment over there just to disconnect the call, when all you gotta do is click. I don't get it, but that's me. This is pretty fucking grisly, I will say, and I think it holds up, even though I can't see the fucking TV. But I think it holds up, because not only does he cut the kid's head off, but he cuts like half of it off. It's really, really nasty. It's a great effect. As much as I loathe to give Tom Savini any credit, because he's quite the McDouche. A quick thing about Caroline Williams. I don't know. I haven't heard many stories about her, but I know that she does make the convention circuit, or has made the convention circuit. And I know somebody who saw her at a convention, and she threw a total diva fit because she wasn't getting her way with something. And she literally pulled the, "Do you know who I am?" Aha. Yeah, she did. She did. And I love how the song goes, "No one lives forever," and then you hear the crash. Nope, certainly don't. Another thing about Caroline Williams is I always heard that she was in Chainsaw 3, but I could never find her. It took me literally years. I think it wasn't until the DVD came out that I was able to determine that she was that she was the newscaster, and she's in it literally for a second, 2 seconds. The camera goes by her, and she like has her hands out like, what are we doing? And then that's it, she's gone. So I don't know, I always assumed at the end of this movie that she lost her mind, but apparently she graduated from radio disc jockey to TV newscaster. We have the introduction to Dennis Hopper. And another thing about this scene, what I have to say too, which I thought was funny, was when I don't have it anymore, but when I got the gruesome edition MGM DVD that they put out that had the very, very Saw-esque cover with the white backdrop and the chainsaw that looks like it's something out of a Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark book drawing. But yeah, they mentioned a lot of things that I always took note of. One of them being the fucking house that drives by on a truck in the background during the scene. I always noticed that, and I'd heard that people do move houses. That is, I just don't think it's very common, and I just always thought it was interesting that they managed to catch that while shooting this scene. They managed to catch somebody moving a house. And another thing that I always noticed or thought of while watching the video version, because the widescreen edition is missing some information at the top and bottom of the screen, but during the final sequence, right before the credits go, and Stretch is at that rock structure at the top of the rock, and she's screaming and wielding the chainsaw. Behind her, you just see traffic going by, trucks and cars, and everything's going by as normal. And I always found that creepy because all this insane shit is going on, and behind her, life is just transgressing as normal. And first of all, nobody knows what is happening and what just happened. But they don't know how close they were to it. But I always found that a little, I don't think it was meant to be unnerving, but I always found it to be. But yeah, they talk about that I don't know if they talk about how scary or unsettling or unnerving it was, but they did note that you couldn't see it anymore in the widescreen transfer. And that was something that I missed. I wonder if this was where those kids were going. Yeah, another thing that I remember about this scene, because Dennis Hopper's character is supposed to be an alcoholic, they talk about in the commentary that his method of simulating drunken behavior was to spin around wildly before the beginning of a take, which I thought was pretty innovative, because and I've spoken many a time about how much I despise people who play drunk poorly, but his drunk is very subtle, but it's very effective. And I think the technique works really well. And of course it would, because Dennis Hopper is a very accomplished actor. R.I.P. I wouldn't think that he would have the slightest bit of patience for staying in a hotel room with these kinds of rowdy, obnoxious kids. I could just imagine him fucking pulling out a gun and being like, shut the fuck, because that's what I would do if I was him. Not that I have a gun. I don't have a gun. I just want to make that clear. But yeah, getting back to the VHS that I used to have, I had the Video Treasures EP mode VHS. Video Treasures released a lot of media home entertainment titles, and including Sleepaway Camp. And yeah, this was one of them. And I had it. It was a we called the budget VHSs that you could find at department stores for like $10, which was considered cheap at the time. And little did everybody know that just, a decade or so later, you'd be able to get a digital version of the film that would be in much higher quality and for a fraction of the price. I always thought he was sweet, and she had no patience for him whatsoever. I don't know. The only thing that I can't deal with is him hawking loogies all over the radio station. That is one thing about this movie that really grosses me out. Despite all the gore, that is the one thing that really turns my stomach, is the phlegm. Ugh, nasty. We're about to see Jim Cito, or is it Cito or Sido or Sidow? I always forget how to pronounce his name. But he is the fucking man. He is the kind of old man that I want to be when if I'm ever that old. Just kooky and wacky and lovable. He was just such a treasure. R.I.P. Oh, it's a shame how many people from this movie are dead. Don't skimp on the meat. Runs in the family. Hard shell peppercorns. I have no idea what that is. I don't know what that was. It was like either a bone or a tooth. I would not be too happy. I mean, what does covering chili cook-offs have to do with the kind of why I don't get. It doesn't seem like the kind of coverage that you would find or you would hear on a radio station like what is it? K Okla. I almost forgot. I don't know why it's called K Okla because that sounds way too much like Oklahoma. And she just said it too. And why? Wait a minute. Why is it called Red River Rock and Roll? That's a lot of alliteration. Red River Rock and Roll Request Line. If this is K Okla, I guess Red River Rock and Roll is the name of her show. I I mm, I'm I always assumed that this scene was meant to show Dennis Hopper's character, Lefty. No, yes, Lefty. Um, Gearing up for a battle because he knows that there's been chainsaw killings going on, and then he wants to put a stop to it because Franklin and Sally were his niece and nephews, and he wants to really go to battle with these guys because he knows that they're still at large, and he knows their weapon of choice, and he wants to essentially um it's kind of like sword fighting, I guess. It's like choose your weapon. If they're going to be using chainsaws, he's going to be using chainsaws. I have no idea what I'm talking about. But yeah, he strikes me as someone who's never handled a chainsaw before. So he's getting a feel for it. And you could tell you could see he's testing the weight. If he could hold one in each hand. So he's able to hold one in each hand. They're small saws, but I would be willing to bet that they're not light. You can this is another thing from the commentary, but it's hard to hear it, but the store clerk, when he gets all giggly and there it is, he just said it. Oh, my aching banana. I never knew what he said before because it was always, I think it was because of the shitty transfer. The sound quality is much better in this one. Yeah, so I don't know how I feel about the original idea of Stretch being Lefty's illegitimate daughter because there's way too many, and there's too many family ties here. That I mean, if you're gonna have Franklin and Sally be his niece and nephew, and then Stretch be his daughter, that's a little much. And there are an awful lot of shots of Caroline Williams' ass in those little shorts. I don't. I was about to say. I was about to say. I don't think she asks why he wants to hear it on the show, but she does. She says why. But I really don't think she gets a very. I think she gets a kind of broad explanation. Yeah. Hmm. It sounds like he wants her to play it simply for the greater good, to get some help from people who actually can help, because he's tired of being a one-man army against these underground killers, and he wants to get the feds involved and stuff. And I mean, that newspaper article kind of blew up in his face. I mean, like he met that the detective who said he knew he had friends at the newspaper, and then he could get his story printed in the paper. He did get the story printed in the paper, but it was not the story that he wanted printed. And so he's going to new lengths, and these lengths now include making Stretch a lamb to the slaughter. Essentially, he uses her as bait, which is pretty fucked. But and he seems remorseful, and but he sees no other way. I don't know. What the fuck is that voice she's doing? That was a very NPR voice. We're doing this every hour. We get his name in this one, Drayton Sawyer. This ain't no joke, boy. Don't bullshit me. I wish he was my grandfather. You know, as I've said before in other commentaries for other movies, whenever they do flashbacks or callbacks or whatever you want to call it to scenes or audio, or like, for example, if ever there's like a moment where you see somebody leave, for example, if you see somebody leave a voicemail on somebody's answering machine, you see them hold the phone, you see them talk into the phone, you hear them say the message, whatever. Then later on, when the recipient plays the message, it's a totally different take. It's always, always, always a totally different take, and that is the same with video. If like you see somebody shoot something on a camcorder. I always think about cheerleader camp, because that's a biggie, because the kind of doughy fella whose name is escaping me right now. Yeah, he videotapes himself taking a leak, and what you see in the movie is not what you see later on the tape that he recorded. It's a totally different take, and that's always what they do. I have no idea why, but it's something that irks the fuck out of me. But I was saying that because that actually sounded like when they were playing the murder on the radio. When you hear the one kid go, fucker, fucker, that actually sounded like it was from the movie. I don't think I've ever heard any radio station or seen any TV station play. It's so disgusting. Play the national anthem. Never. I mean, at the end of a broadcast or midnight or whatever, that you're supposed to do it. I think you're supposed to do it at midnight, or they were at one. I don't fucking know. Yeah, that's them. Now they're making sure she's there. There's no fucking way a DJ would stay on the phone and say, hello, hello, hello. I don't care what the situation is. They have no time. They do not care. They love to hang up on people. Like I said, I've had my experiences. Even if they, I remember this one radio station. They would have, I don't want to say what the name of the thing was because it'll give away the radio station, and I think they're still popular here in Philly. But you know, they used to. I don't know if they still do, because I don't listen to the radio. I do not listen to contemporary music because I'm fucking old. But they used to do this thing when I was a teenager where, and they didn't, it wasn't a regular weekly thing. It was basically whenever they felt like it. I don't know. But they would do a thing where they would introduce a new song, a new single, and they would have people call in and vote on whether or not they liked it. And they had a phrase you would say whether you liked it, and a phrase you would say if you didn't. And they would answer the phone, and they would ask you for the phrase. As soon as you said it, they would hang up. Boom, right away. No, thanks for calling, or no, no, mm-mm. Ah. Speaking of the man, here is Bill fucking Moseley in all his insane glory. Bill motherfucking Moseley, bitch. I don't know anybody who doesn't love Bill Moseley. And he's so fucking perfect in this scene too. This whole scene is just, he's perfect. Now, according to the Wikipedia page about this movie, and I've done this before, movie. I don't know why I do that. And I only do that when I do commentaries. But according to the Wikipedia page for this movie, he's supposed to be the twin brother of the hitchhiker, the nameless hitchhiker from the original, which I never was able to put together. I don't know. They always had new characters. They were always adding new characters to their families with each installment. So I always thought it was funny how he fucked up Inagata de Vida. He says Inavita de Gata. Mm-hmm. What was I saying? I was saying something. I don't remember now. Yeah, but on a different note. Oh, I think I already made the point that I was trying to make about the twin. But yeah, yeah, he's Chop Top, of course. And people get fucking Chop Top tattoos because Bill Moseley is such the fucking man. But this might be sacrilege. But this is a hot take. I think I'm gonna say it. I think I'm gonna say it. I might get shit for it by my 3 listeners, but I'm gonna say it. I like Bill Moseley's Chop Top more than Ed Neal's Hitchhiker. I love Ed Neal. I love the Hitchhiker character. But Chop Top, I mean, come on. And I especially love how long this goes on with him lighting the hanger. and scratching the back of his head, and you don't know what he's doing. That lead up to when the Sonny Bono wig do. The Rambo 3 soundtrack. I was going to talk about All American Massacre. I really didn't know anything about that. I was reading about that on Wikipedia, but I do remember, because like I said, when I got my first computer, it was 2000. It was when I first got online, and I was going to all the horror message boards. I was discovering all the horror message boards or websites, and I do remember seeing stills from All American Massacre, which was, I thought, that is frightening. If you've never seen this movie and you don't know what's coming, that's fucking scary. The appearance of Leatherface. But I thought that All American Massacre was a Bill Moseley endeavor, but apparently it was a project by the son of Tobe Hooper, William Hooper, I think that's right. Non-flashback. Well, that kind of makes sense because, well, no, I don't know. Ed Neal was in Nam, but we don't know if the Hitchhiker was. I love all this. And then he says, at least he didn't mess me up. Yeah, All American Massacre. I Yeah, that was supposed to be the unofficial sequel to this. The official sequel is Leatherface: The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 by Jeff Burr, a movie that people abhor, but I enjoy. I like it. I don't think it's a perfect movie, but I like it. I think it's good. I think it's fun. And Jeff Burr is a credible director, and Kate Hodge does really well, as does William Butler. I have a friend on Facebook named William Butler, and it took me forever before I realized it wasn't the William Butler from Chainsaw 3. All American Massacre, yeah. I thought it was just like some side project that Bill Moseley was doing on his own and financing on his own, because it looked like it was from the stills that I remember. And I remember a title card. I remember, because it was supposed to be, from what I recall, the story of Chop Top post Chainsaw 2 in a sanitarium, and I remember a shot of him wrapped in a blanket sitting on the edge of a bed. I remember that. And it looked really grainy and shitty and amateurish. And I don't remember if it said on Wikipedia if the footage leaked, but I think the trailer did. But it never got finished because William Hooper, son of Tobe Hooper, ran out of money. The most famous line in the movie. Incoming mail, it's nasty. It is really fucking nasty. Okay, this is probably the second grisliest moment in the movie. I mean, you got the loogies and you got the incoming mail. Ah, it goes on and on and on. Boom, boom, boom. And poor LG. Ah. This is Caroline Williams doing her best Marilyn Burns with all the screaming. I don't know how she had a voice after this. I don't know how Marilyn Burns had her sanity after that movie. There, I like, it's creepy and it's weird, but when Leatherface gets into this little back room that she's in, and it gets very suggestive, and you see that while Leatherface is an inbred killing machine, he does have a sexual side to him, and he has a liking to her. He doesn't want to kill her because he's attracted to her, and and he basically, tells her with his saw, which is a phallic symbol, that he's got a boner for her because, she says, "How good are you?" And he holds up the saw. And then right before he leaves, he does that thrusting motion with the saw. What the hell is all that ice for? Because he's cutting into the ice, and I think it was just to get her wet. And I mean, you know what I mean. Hope you can't hear my idiotic fucking neighbors. Ruin every fucking commentary. You suck.
How good are you?
And she has this saw pressed up against her hooch for a good long while. Way too long. And she was about to get a brand new hole, let me tell you what. And I think he starts pulling the cord when when it's still pressed up against her. And if you ask anybody who's used a chainsaw, see, this is what I take umbrage with these movies. And I was listening to a podcast, and it just always and they were talking about Friday the 13th Part 5, another movie that everybody hates, but I enjoy very much. There's the scene in the barn when Pam comes out of I don't know where she was, but she comes out and she attacks Roy / Jason with the chainsaw that is running. Anybody who has ever worked a chainsaw, or even a lawnmower for that fucking matter, will tell you that they do not ever, they don't start on the first pull. Never. So when you have scenes like Pam coming through the doorway with the saw already running, and you don't even hear her, pull the cord, it's just running, which would leads you to believe that it was running silently behind the door. And the same thing happens here when Leatherface first makes his appearance at the radio station. I mean, I'm being nitpicky, and I know that you just got to roll with this kind of stuff, and I'm not trying to be a dick. I love the movie, but I'm just saying that they don't start like that. It's not like you flip a switch. I mean, when the light goes on, he is bursting out of there, the record vault, with the saw running, and that's not reality, baby. Get that bitch. Yeah, nobody except for all the people who heard the. You, nobody knows except for all the people who heard her playing the murder over and over and over and over. Yeah. Look at that beef. What exactly did they think she knew? And the bike horn, oh my god. Like a fucking clown. He's so brilliant. How he really... Well, I mean, like, he has gotten some recognition for being in some of those god-awful fucking Rob Zombie movies. So I think that's the closest thing to mainstream. Was he in some Tarantino or something? I don't know. But yeah, it's just when I did that commentary for House of a Thousand Corpses back in, what was it, January or whatever, I hadn't seen the movie in so long, and I still didn't watch it. I had an audio described version, which I was surprised I was able to find. And yeah, I mean, just like even by the way it was described, it's like, okay, this is such a ridiculously blatant ripoff of both the original Chainsaw and Part 2. And in particular, the underground lair with all the carnival stuff, and it's so in your face. And he did not give a shit because he's a fucking hack. He is a hack and a toolbox, and I don't give a shit. Yeah, it's another one. It's another, it's like, I call it the Kevin Williamson syndrome. That's my thing. I made it up. The Kevin Williamson syndrome is when you rip off a movie so fucking blatantly, and you either mention in the movie what it is that you're ripping off, or you speak publicly about the movie that you're ripping off and call it an homage. So it's basically like you're pointing out the obvious before everyone else can. It's kind of like how comedians with a thing exploit it themselves when they're on stage. Like if you have an overweight comedian or an alcoholic comedian or a comedian who's had issues with drug or alcohol abuse or whatever, they will, and people and their public figure, they will talk about it at length, and that will end up being their shtick. And there are some Asian comedians whose whole routine is around being Asian, which I don't really get, but whatever. And there are certain female comedians whose whole shtick is based around being a woman. Okay, that's really, you're not even trying. You might as well start talking about airline peanuts. If you're that much of a hack and your whole routine is based around being a woman. I like how her hand slides into the skeleton hand. I mean, like, she doesn't grab at like the fingers or anything. Like, she actually takes the skeletal hand in hers, like the way their thumbs lock. And I like oh my god, wait. Oh, she really falls far. Is this a sliding board? I love that sliding board. Wait. Oh my god. Another one. Well, for me, one of my favorite. I have so many favorite moments, so many favorite lines in this movie, but the the dog dick one is obviously the most recognized. But another one of my favorite lines and moments is when Lefty and Drayton Sawyer are facing each other, and Lefty introduces himself as the Lord of the Harvest. And Drayton's response is, "Who's that? Some new health food bunch?" And a lot of what's in this movie is a commentary on what was going on during the 80s at this time. And not only was it like a political commentary on I mean, I don't mean like politics, but you know what I mean. Not only was it a political commentary, but it was also a commentary on small things. Like, this was around the time when people were turning. It was like popular to be vegetarian. People were, and they kind of exploited that with the that health food bunch line and the whole thing about the chili and the meat and this town loves prime meat and blah blah blah. I mean, there's so many different new parodies and nuances, and this movie has so much depth, and it's such a brilliant piece of horror filmmaking that it's really I mean, as much as I can't say that I like it more than the original. I don't know, but I know that there are hardcore horror fans who do. I don't think that the original is better. I think they're about on par with each other. I think they're both brilliant in completely different ways. And Tobe Hooper said that he thought that audiences failed to see the humor in the original. And yeah, I think they did, because there really wasn't much. There was little, not a whole lot. And he wanted it to be more humorous, and that's where this movie, the concept for this was born out of. But it got a lot of negative reviews when it first came out. Of course, fucking Siskel and Ebert. I said Ebert. Siskel and Ebert ripped it to shreds. Surprise, surprise. They didn't like a horror movie in the 80s. Shocker. And by the way, I was watching. Has nothing. This is so completely ridiculously unrelated, but I fucking hated Siskel and Ebert, and so I'm gonna talk about them for a second here. But it was. I was watching. I was revisiting the Crystal Lake Memories documentary last night, and the book seriously needs to come out in audiobook format. What the fuck? If the Behemoth Taking Shape books are in audiobook format, and the Behemoth book about the evolution of Full Moon is in audiobook format, why do we not have Crystal Lake Memories? But yeah, the scene or the moment or the discussion of Siskel and Ebert giving Betsy Palmer so much flack about being in the original Friday the 13th. How dare she do a movie like this after making herself so lovable in whatever fucking show that she was on in the 50s. I have no idea. And she even says in the documentary that if it wasn't for Friday the 13th, a lot of people probably would never know who she was. And I think that is absolutely 100% true, because I've never heard her associated with anything other than Friday the 13th. No TV shows, no movies, nothing. But yeah, they were saying, how dare she do a movie like this and play a character like this, which makes, after doing the kinds of material that she did prior, and it makes no fucking sense, because literally what they were saying was, how dare an actor broaden their horizons and try to play against type and do a totally different kind of character and do something that they aren't known for and put themselves in a different light to stretch their acting chops. How dare she? It's so fucking stupid. So yeah, there's my little rant on that. She's talking to him like he's a dog. I just want her to go bad boy, sit. I have to say, as much as I enjoy all the grisly humor in this movie, it is my fucking chopped up. As much as I enjoy all the grisly humor in this movie and the splat stick element, and the new eyeball pate, the new phrase or term that Mick Garris recently coined for movies like this, which is red comedy, which I think is fitting. But I also think splat stick is fitting. Splat stick, red comedy, whatever. But as much as I enjoy those elements and appreciate those elements, I also appreciate the softer, more touching moments, though they are few, very few and far between, and I can only really think of one right now. But the scene with Stretch and LG, and while it's a very touching and very sad moment, it's still very grisly because his face is cut off and she is wearing it, which was, clearly ripped off in A Thousand Corpses when the girl, wasn't she, I think she was wearing her father's face or some shit, or somebody was wearing her father's face and was, I don't know, making out with her. I don't know. I did the commentary for that movie, and I want to put it behind me now. I don't want to think about it anymore. I don't like thinking about stupid shit. Because everything that I think of and ponder and view and read and consume is completely intellectual. The touching moment. In particular, the scene where he says, don't be scared, darling. And before she leaves, she puts his face back on him and gives him his hat. I mean, it's so twisted, but it's also so sad at the same time. And the one thing that bothers me about that scene is when he says, we got to get you unloose. If you want to get somebody unloose, that means you want to get them tight? I don't know. I don't get that. But I too, and it's frightening because he has been through so much and he's hanging by a thread, and where he gets this giant, you had to do that. That like ruins the whole scene. Wait. Oh. His like whole. How is he alive? I don't think he would be alive. Because he's like all fucking gutted and shit. He's like. He's basically eviscerated. And I hate that line. I hate where she sees him, he's there, she knows it's him, and then like 5 minutes later, they got you too? No. But another touching moment, I think, is the scene where he's hanging by a thread. He gets this giant knife where I don't know where it comes from, but and he's using it to cut her restraints, and his hand is shaking like crazy, and it's supposed to create tension, I think, for the viewer. But what I think is so touching about that particular moment is she has full trust in him. She knows that. Oh, that line too. I forgot about that line. I'm falling apart on you, honey. But she has total 100% trust in him, that even though she knows that he would never hurt her, even when he has no control over his faculties. She knows that there's something in him, that he cares about her to the point where he would not let himself hurt her. Her trust in him is I think, really sweet. And I think that she realizes that she was kind of a biatch to him. And regrets it now. Because he might have had some nasty habits, but, you know, I don't think it was anything that couldn't have been helped. What the fuck is that? And the bringing in the sheaves. What the fuck? Yeah, fucked up again. I mean, he's always chiding Bubba and fucking. Well, in the original, it's the hitchhiker, but he's always yelling at people because he's a grumpy old man. It's really amazing what they were able to do with only a $4 million budget. Was it $4 million or 4.5? Something like that. And it was not very profitable. I mean, it only made, I think, $8 million. And what a lot of people fail to realize is when you take into account the budget of a movie, you're not counting the millions of dollars in advertising. That's not included when you talk about a budget, so that was probably another 1 or 2 million. I don't know, depending on how much money Canon had for promotional campaigns at the time. I like how you know, after they say, it's like a saying when someone who is known for doing bad shit, they're kind of exposed, and so they say, you know, so and so went underground. They literally go underground in this one. Hey, that's funny. They literally go underground. But then they go back to the farmhouse in part 3. Yeah, so this underground lair is so vast that they don't even hear Lefty going crazy with that saw. He's like a little boy. This is like little monsters. I just love it when he's screaming at people. Some kind of crazy booger. Another one of my favorite lines. Back in fucking the chat room days, I used to go to movie chat rooms all the time, and I used to play games. And there used to be certain games where they would be like, and this was before I knew anything about IMDb because, I was so new to the interwebs. So they would be like, guess the movie by any two actors in the movie. And there was this one, I swear to God, there was this one fucking girl, and I would pick the most obscure movies that I could think of, and she knew every single one of them. And I was like, this is bullshit. And then she finally admitted to using IMDb, but I was like, oh, you fucking whore. Was like, oh yeah, but there will be other games where it would be guess the movie by the quote, and a few times I did the I say we burn her like a rat, burn her like a rat, burn her like a rat quote. And nobody ever got it. Nobody ever knew what the fuck it was because people are stupid. Yeah, they found Franklin's wheelchair, which I think is kind of random with the flashlight, because that would have meant that they would have had to take it out of the woods and bring it down there. I don't know. I don't think it would have been a relic that you'd find. There was a wheelchair, I think in the remake that you like see in the background or some bullshit like that. I don't know. I tried to convince myself for the longest time that the remake was a good movie, but it's not. It's not awful, but it's not a movie that I mean, it's got some decent moments, but it's also got its really, really, really bad moments. A lot of people think that what's her face did a really good job, but I thought she was a little too over the top, a little too much. She was no Marilyn Burns, I will say that. What was I saying about the remake? Oh yeah, I think that there was some, or maybe I'm thinking about some other movie. I don't fucking know. But I think there's like a scene where you like see a glimpse of a wheelchair or something. I'm probably totally making this up. But yeah, I tried to convince myself for the longest time. Well, not really the longest time, but I did try to convince myself that it was a good movie. And it blew my fucking mind. It blew my mind when it first came out, because I actually met people who really thought that it was a true story. I think I've told this story before, and I probably told it on the commentary for the original Chainsaw, but I met this girl. Well, no, I knew her. I worked with her at my old job. But this was when it first came out on video, and she had just seen it. And I was sitting down, I was talking to her about it, and she was like, I thought that was really cool that they included the actual footage of the documentarians going into the house and seeing photographing the crime scene, and the guy with the microphone and blah, blah. I just lost it. I was like, that wasn't real. dirty thing. Yeah, and when I was a kid, because everybody knew that the original chainsaw was inspired by a true story. So, of course, everybody assumed that there really was a van filled with 20 somethings who get stranded and get chased with a guy with a chainsaw and put up on meat hooks and shit. Um, no, 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 no. I think the SEEX line is a little is pushing it. I mean, you really, really have to be stupid to fuck up a 3-letter word. And he's not clearly not that dumb. I mean, he could drive a car. He could make some chili. I mean, he can do some. He's oh. Here it is. Turn traitor for a piece of tail. There's so many fucking quotable moments. And there's another one right there. So much so that it was branded or embossed or whatever the fuck on the saw blade in part 3. That kind of hammer, I forget what they're called, but it's basically like a miniature sledgehammer. It's not like a rubber mallet. That if you get hit with that, that would probably kill you. Some stuff you don't even know what the fuck he's talking about. He's just yammering nonsense. But even still, it's fucking brilliant. I love it. I want something about a one-eyed ferret with mange. I don't know. "137 years old." I told my long, stupid story. You're balling up his shit. I have no idea what that means. But that's another one. That's another Drayton Sawyerism that is, again, hilarious. But I told my stupid story in the original in the commentary for the original film, actually, about not recognizing the poster art for Chainsaw 2 because I'd never seen 16 Candles. So I won't go into that again. But as far as artwork for the movie goes, that one is the one I associate the most with the film. There is, I fucking hate that Saw-esque cover that was done for the DVD gruesome edition or whatever the fuck it's called. But no, I don't like. I mean, it's cool for what it is, but the typeface is a little too similar to that of the remake. So it was very much like they were trying to make people think that this was a brand new movie, a brand new sequel to the remake, because the DVD had come out, I think, like 2 years later or something like that. 2 or 3. I think it was like 05, 06 that it came out. But yeah, no, I don't like that one. I don't like the original DVD that MGM put out, the Bare Bones DVD. That's just a shot of Dennis Hopper holding the chainsaw. I hate that cover. But there's also another cover that I think was part of the promotional campaign that was, I can't remember what it was, but I just remember a lot of shredded something, shredded wood or something. I don't remember. It was the aftermath of some kind of chainsaw shredding, but it was kind of cool. I don't think I saw it until a number of years later, when I got a really, all right, she sounds like a mouse here, but I got a bootleg of the work print edition. It was really, really shitty quality, but work prints tend to be. So yeah, I got a work print bootleg from, I don't even remember, somewhere, and it had that cover, and I think that was the first time I'd ever seen it, because like I said, the Breakfast Club cover, parody cover, is the one I always associated with this, and as far as I knew, that was the only cover or artwork for the movie that there had ever been. But yeah, that shredding one, I'm sure somebody knows what the hell I'm talking about, and I think it might be in the artwork gallery on IMDb. But yeah, that, when I was trying to say, when I got that bootleg edition of the work print, that was the first time I'd ever seen that cover. And I haven't had that DVD for so long, because the work print is kind of long and drawn out, and this is very close to 101 minutes as it is. So this is not over long for a movie of its kind, but we're teetering here. Oh, we're teetering a little bit, because I hold firm in my belief that horror movies shouldn't be longer than 90 minutes. John Waters has said that no movie should be longer than 90 minutes. But I think that really is, I think that's, I don't like that part. Because you hear that sound of the hammer hitting her head. But yeah, I think that is true too, mainly for the horror genre, that no horror movie should be longer than 90 minutes. But now, I don't know if I said this before, but I'm going to say it now. As soon as Judd Apatow became successful, I guess, or became a recognizable, bankable name with the 40-Year-Old Virgin back in 2004, he started a trend where movies that should be 90 minutes ended up being 2.5 hours. And I think that crossed over in other genres too, because I mean, the Marvel movies, which I don't see, you kind of expect them to be 2.5 hours, so I don't even know if that necessarily counts. But a stupid fucking sex comedy like the 40-Year-Old Virgin, 90 minutes or under, that's like 2 hours 15, some shit like that. And then you had Knocked Up and all of his other movies that came after the fact. They were all 2 hours plus. And so that started a trend where everybody started making movies that were 2 hours plus. And it's like you got all these movies that are a little too long. And it's interesting too, because a lot of the time the production, wait, some new health food bunch. Yeah, a lot of the time that there will be stipulation in the contract for a director to turn in a movie that is R-rated and has a certain running time, a lot of the time, which is 90 minutes. And with VOD and all that stuff now, I don't really think the R rating is prominent anymore. And clearly the 90-minute running time isn't, because we have all these fucking 6-hour movies. The famous battle. Drayton's got to find that old fuck you Charlie and gather nubbins. Oh. Oh. So I like this. How, I mean, like, you have three different stories basically going on. You have Lefty and Leatherface going at it. You have Drayton Sawyer having his whole, thing with Nubbins under the table because he's accepting that he's lost. And then you have Chop Top and Stretch having their thing. So you got a trifecta here, baby. And I love how, and this is another like nonsensical yammering, rambling. So what the fuck are you talking about? But, and I love how, like, it's all the shit is going on right above him, and like the volume of it is turned down, and all you hear is the ching, ching, ching of the chainsaws hitting each other, and he's still perfectly audible while he's like, saying his last goodbyes to Nubbins, I guess. And I like the shut down. Time shut down. But yeah, I like the shot of Leatherface with the chainsaw going into his big gut. That's a cool shot. That's a cool effect. And now the music kicks in out of nowhere. And I mean, Kerplooey. I always love that Kerplooey. Um, but what's surprising is the fans love Gunner so much, but people really weren't up in arms about him not returning for this one. And there's that whole thing about him. Well, I mean, getting offered scale for the movie, a scale, and then 10% for his agent. And then he said, I didn't have an agent. Well, they said, okay, well, we'll give you scale without the 10%. And then there was that whole story where supposedly that wasn't true, and he was making all these demands. I don't know what the truth was or what happened, but I think that he kind of thought he was more of an asset to the movie than he actually was. Not that I don't love Gunner's Leatherface. I think he does quite well in the original film. But he's really not an actor. I mean, like this is, a lot of people have said that Jason could have been played by a stuntman, which is, I tend to agree and disagree with. I could see both sides of the coin on that one. But with Leatherface, I don't know. I think R.A. Mihailoff gave him much more character than he has in any of the other movies. Well, I mean, like, we won't even talk about Next Generation because it's not good. But yeah, like the scene where he's playing that game and he says the clown is food, and he keeps putting it in, and it says wrong, try again, and then he gets mad and he pounds the table. I mean, like, you actually see Leatherface with, or behaving somewhat like a human being. In parts 1 and 2, you really don't see him have too many of those kinds of moments. Alright, now we're at the rock, stone, whatever the fuck this is, hideaway with Grandma's altar with her big old titties. That's way too much titty. And her nipples are still hard too, which I think is kind of gross. Dead End City. There's no way in hell that chainsaw would work. This, I think, should have been patched up a little bit, because when he's dragging the dull razor across he's obviously doing the old pump and slash thing that everybody knows about. like death eating a cracker. I have no idea what that means, but I love it. But yeah, when he does the cuts, I mean, they're not. It's just the pump and slash, and then the blood pump runs out midway through one of the cuts, so that kind of fucks it up. And what what I think is really really cringy, and like, I mean, like cringy in the ow, I don't want to be in that position, not cringy as in this is bad cinema, but when she's trying to get the chainsaw to work and he's slicing her up with the fucking razor, and he just keeps cutting her and cutting her and cutting her and cutting her. Oh my god. And she will not give up on this chainsaw because she thinks that this thing, she's not giving up hope, and there it goes. Yeah, that would not happen. Sorry. Yeah, and he's supposed to have survived that. I like it when he goes right down the tunnel. His body rolls and he goes right down that little hole. I don't know. I mean, everything gets wrapped up for the most part, but I think this is a little anticlimactic. I think it maybe needed an epilogue, because we get to the rock, and we get to that final battle between Stretch and Chop Top, and then when she triumphs, and then it's just over. I really do. I think we needed an epilogue. I think we needed to know what happened to her. I think we needed to see her in a hospital or something like that. One could say the same thing with the original, because it it literally cuts right in the middle of Leatherface swinging the chainsaw, but I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change that. This, like I said, I think I think it could have benefited from a 2-3 minute um, epilogue scene. But yeah, that was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, which is sometimes known as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. I don't know. And yeah, it's still awesome. It's still a cult classic. Still love it. And I hope you guys enjoyed the commentary, my little nonsensical Drayton Sawyer ramblings. And hope you'll come back soon. Yeah, so until next time, this is Brandon Ford wishing you all unpleasant dreams.